Started. So my name's Brandon. I'm back with you today as your host, and today we're going to talk about something that is very dear to my heart, and that is design. We're going to talk about what it means to actually design something and why that's important to actually manufacture or make that something that you are designing. Before we get started, the theme for today is kayaks, and we're going to play your favorite game, Spot the Quapple. So in the kayak shop here, we've got a few of those Quest Integration educational logos. Look for the apple there with the Q on it. You've got a few of those to go and find. Let's go ahead and play the game. I'll start the timer. 30 seconds on the clock. Here we go. Lots of colors here. This might be a challenge for you where some of them kind of blend in a little bit. Got about 15 seconds left to go. Looks like there's 5 quapples here, so 5 seconds left. All right, did you find them all? I'll give you the answer here. Take a look there. There's all 5 quapples. Hopefully you had some fun with that. Lots going on here in that picture, and we're going to move on to what it means to design. So thanks for joining us here today. As I mentioned before, this is something that is really important to me. In my career here at Quest, I get to help a lot of engineers with their design efforts. And what that really comes down to is using software tools, things like Solidworks. We can use the computer to help us design something that we can actually make in real life. So I'm going to actually take you through what I used here just recently. If you haven't checked out our YouTube series, Bling My Boat, I made some modifications to my kayak. That's something that I enjoy doing in my free time. Taking the kayak out, maybe grab a fishing rod, go out and catch some fish while I'm on the kayak. So with that theme in mind, I actually made some modifications to my boat, and you're going to see exactly how I did it here. But let's talk first about how you can actually make your designs a reality. So if you've ever had an idea and you wanted to make that something that's in your head, chances are you planned it out somehow first. Maybe you made a quick drawing of it just by sketching it on a piece of paper or a napkin or something like that, but you can get pretty intricate with it. Really what it all comes down to is planning. You're going to have to plan what you want to make in order to do it right the first time. So if you think about what it takes to build a house, for example, you don't just walk into building a house with a bunch of lumber and start cutting away and end up with a house. You have to put a plan into it. So if you've ever seen a blueprint in building a house, this is the plans essentially that go into building that house. So you have to come up with something that's going to guide you along this process. And the same is true for really any type of manufacturing. That's something that you're going to make. We want to make sure that it works out well the first time. If you've ever tried to fit a square peg in a round hole, right, that design mismatch there, if you will, is something that we can avoid if we just plan ahead of time. So let's chat about something that I needed. I was going to take my kayak. This is actually the same exact kayak that I have at my house. And what I wanted to do is put a couple of fishing rod holders on that kayak. And you can see more about this on the YouTube channel. But what I'm going to cover with you guys today is, real quickly, how did I get from just a plain old kayak to putting something on it that I wanted or needed? So here's my final design of my fishing rod holder, so you can get a better sense of what that is. These little gray parts right here are the ones that I put on my kayak to hold a fishing pole. Pretty cool, right? Well, I had to start somewhere. And I've got some tools that I can use on my computer here to take the information from my kayak and design something around that. So a while back I talked with you guys about 3D scanning, how you can take an object that actually exists in real life and scan it into your computer so you can make a 3D model of it. And that 3D model isn't something to just look at, it's actually something that you can use to make those parts a reality. So here you can see me working in Solidworks. I took that 3D scan of my kayak, You can see some of the top surfaces of my kayak there in the beginning. And what I did was design a quick bracket here that I can mount my fishing rod holder on. So in no time at all, just by creating some simple shapes here in Solidworks, I can make a design for that rod holder that will ultimately lead to a part that I can make on my 3D printer. And you can make these parts in many different ways. You might hear of other pieces of machinery, things like mills and lathes. Those are other tools that can be used to make parts in real life. But my 3D printer made it super easy for me with just a couple of button clicks to actually make these parts and put them on my kayak. So there's kind of what the finished design looks like in SolidWorks. Now, how do I actually get that onto my 3D printer? So here's my 3D printer, the Sendo 3D Wax 1. You've seen some other videos that I've done about just how easy this is to use. It's very simple to get started. But what it comes down to is I need to take that 3D model that I've created in SolidWorks and I need to send it out to my 3D printer. So using the internet, I can actually connect those devices together and SolidWorks can communicate with my 3D printer. I can take my design, so here's my fishing rod holder, and essentially we just hit the print button, right? It's going to do the hard work for us and actually make that part out of plastic, so I can use plastic materials like ABS or PLA to actually make those parts and end up with the final design. So these are the parts that I made, and you saw them on the kayak there a few frames back. It was very easy to get started. Like I said, just creating some simple shapes and then sending those out to my 3D printer. It doesn't get much easier than that, but you saw the whole process here. I can start with a plan, come up with something new, and then ultimately make those parts and bring it into reality. So that's really why it's so important to design. You have to get an idea of, is this going to work before you actually get started on making those parts. So with that, I hope you enjoyed looking at the process of how you can make things using a 3D design tool and a 3D printer, and even incorporating some 3D scanning. We've taken all three pieces of technology here and told the full story about how you can actually make something a reality. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the process, and hopefully that sparked some new ideas for you about how you can design something new, and maybe you'll come up with your own parts that you wanted to 3D print. A couple of ideas for you. I've mentioned tools like SolidWorks apps for kids. You can get online and check that out. We've got more information for you if you guys want to reach out. But that would be a really simple way for you to get started and make some of your own designs. So with that, continue on your quest for knowledge, and I hope you enjoy learning with us next week, where Corinne will be back to have some more fun with you. Thanks again for joining us on QuestBite. We'll see you around.